So, hi everybody. I kind of realized there was a lot of comments asking kind of like what my method is when I'm animating, and just kind of like giving a scene by scene breakdown. I thought would have been pretty good because it's kind of like a lot on at once. I kind of started out this idea at the end of last year. I was kind of thinking I want to try and do the hardest shot I can possibly achieve. Realistically, going for things that I wouldn't usually try and animate, or at least not in the previous year. So I get myself out of my comfort zone, and not only that, but kind of try and, try something new. Because, trying something new is how you grow. Yay. But I also think that my goal with this was kind of to push my limits a lot further than I have done in previous animations. Mainly, not only just because like drawing, technical skill was like one of my main like flaws. Like I got a hell of a lot of comments on my blue lock animation regarding proportions. I'd like to pretend they didn't get to me, but they did. I love drawing. I love drawing people, but there was a part of me that then started to use those comments and be like, fucking hell, yeah, those legs are like completely way too big for the whole body. And I have a tendency of drawing heads way too big. So there was, a hell of a lot of technical errors in a lot of my previous animations that I kind of wanted to cover when going through, this one. So, there's a lot of stuff like that, proportions, effects. I suck at effects. So I was like, I have to like sit down and study Sakagaburu and just trawl through effects and just learn. So a lot of stuff like if you're like me and you absolutely love Sakuga and you constantly like I barely even watch anime anymore, but like I will go on Sakagaburu just to keep up with what the latest animators are doing and all that bullshit. So if you're like me, you will recognize probably a couple of the effects stylings, just mainly from a lot of other inspirations, some off the top of my head, like Vincent Chanshard, Julian Bentley. Julian Bentley, actually, I studied a hell of a lot for this one, especially later in this composition. But I thought I'd give a run through because, you probably just saw that last 12 seconds animation and thought, what the fuck was even going on? So, kind of a brief summary. This is a story I've kind of had in my head for about 4 years. A lot of my personal friends know because I've been going on about it for fucking ever. But it's kind of simple. I'll kind of boil it down so it's kind of in its neat little parts. But essentially, this character here, this is Duh, or at least that's the name I've kind of gone for with him. The idea is that he like works for his family butchers, and then some like roadmen, if you know them from Bongland, roadmen come in and try and rob the place, and one of them, pretends to swing at him with the butcher's blade that's on the counter, tries instigating a little fight, but he's too weak to fight. So then, one of the roadmen goes, "Ucha!" Classic English style, chucks the butcher's blade and it accidentally severs into his neck. Now, the idea is that he could, pull the blade out of his neck, go to hospital and live, but the idea is that he gave up on life, right? He gave up on life, and he just, he doesn't see the point, so he bleeds out with the butcher's blade in his neck. And the idea is that he wakes up in hell with a butcher's blade eternally in his neck. Every time he takes it out, it goes straight back in. But then that's kind of like a tool, sort of like within hell, that he can use to his advantage. So he has to go from, being a pathetic little bastard to kind of, basically at the end of the series, blah, 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 blah. I love, as I said, I boil it down, I'm just, fucking going on the whole thing. But the point is, this is an end of series kind of fight that I had in my head for a while, where he literally forces his way out of hell after dying repeatedly over and over and over, and then resurrecting in hell, using the butcher's blade, learning it, understanding it. It's such an impractical weapon, but he over time adapts and learns how to use it, and then over the course of centuries of trial and error, literally like Dark Souls, and just fucking walking into the boss room, just getting sniped, and just respawning, trying again. Eventually comes up to God, fights his whole way out of hell, and then fights God. And then the idea was that this animation kind of starts after the confrontation between God and Do, asking like what Do seeks to obtain after killing God. And the whole point is that Do wants another shot at life. God can't offer him that. I'm getting dorky here, but like, if anyone wants to hear more, I am actually writing it. And one day I aim to release a manga, but that's if I ever fucking stop animating. So, it's hard. Where do I fit that in amongst like this, animating, and then drawing on the side, and I do stills, and then like I have to like actually live. I got a wife, and also like I gotta play Sound Vortex and work out and shit. Beast mode shit. So anyway, right, point is, shot by shot breakdown. Right, so you kind of have an idea now. This is God. He's like an all-seeing eye kind of thing. So I kind of wanted this like esoteric design where like, it's almost like godly. It's very plain, but he's like kind of representative of human. But he's like one all-seeing eye with this like kind of like star symbology. Over. Oh, fuck me. Hold on. I'm not on the right layer. Over here, this kind of like star symbology kind of runs throughout a lot of my work, and I kind of think of it as like the primordial sort of like, it's what, we look up to the stars, and that's the kingdom of heaven, and, all that kind of baloney, I said baloney, the fuck, cut that out. Right, so yeah, basically the challenge here was like, I've never animated ribbons before. I think I did a good job here. So the idea is he like, gives this big wind up to swing in, throws up the pose, and then you get these neat little impact frames. And then I kind of added like a close-up of the eye here. A close-up of the eye here, and then, a couple impact frames. And then I kind of wanted it to be like, what's happening to the viewer, or is like the eternity of life literally flashing before his eyes. So like, obviously, literally the cycle of life. So here you have kind of like, I had this idea of like a cell, like bursting, and then it's like, it flashes by like a flower and a bee, and then it's kind of like showing these universal patterns. I kind of wanted your eye to be like kind of fixed on this like, circular element. So, you have these two, the tree trunk, what's bigger than that, whatever, then it goes to a planet, and it kind of goes to the solar system, not the solar system, Milky Way, and then, like we cut back, and it's like we've snapped back to reality, but then it's like you're hit with like the eternal knowledge, like sort of like this like almost like Lovecraftian nightmare level of knowledge. It's like here is like a tree of life, and then like God at the end of time sort of thing, with this kind of symbology that I want to like run throughout, and then like at the end it's like this one sort of like whole thing. It's like it's like at the end of the universe we're all one whole. Then obviously we burst back, and then he does this big flashy move, and then I wanted him to like pull back, and I wanted you to feel the weight of his head like pull back into those arms, and then his head swings forward first, and then the arms come through, and then the shockwaves come through, so you kind of get that like weight transferring through the head rather than just the arms. So it's like pushing and then pull, and then like all that kind of comes forward there. So then we got this scene. This is kind of like the continuation past this. We get like a pullback shot just so you can kind of have a little bit of time to process it. Now, mind you, a lot of people I know are already going to comment like this shit is too fast. I know, but I'll put some like Nyan 41 clips on the screen. He is like my absolute fucking goat. And I won't take any slander on his fucking work. I remember like seeing Instagram comments from like some people being like, this animation feels like it doesn't have weight. And I'm like, bro, like you are actually fucking insane if you genuinely feel like this guy is not like one of the best of all time already. I can literally not wait to see what else this guy does. Anyway, point is, really inspired by his work. It's really quick cut, feels super fast, heart rate high, stuff like that. So I kind of want to keep it like that kind of speed. So like it's usually like, like I'm animating at 24 FPS. So like I will do frames on like every 2s. A lot of times on ones actually for effects. Like, you know, you can see there that's on a one. So anyway, we pull back. Does shoe, steps into scene. You kind of get like the shoelaces rattling around, and you know you get that like electricity spark from, you know, over here. So you know, and then the shoe, obviously, you know, shoelaces flinging and that, kind of getting a bit of that good weight in, and then get a close up of Doe. Now, mind you, this fucking angle was a nightmare to figure out, but I did it, and I'm very happy with it. I was going to Sakuga color, as you can see, like there and here, but I didn't because I'm not very good at that yet. I don't know, the whole point was for me to try something new, but I did this like 6 times with the Sakuga coloring, and I literally wanted to end it all. I was like at my limit, so I was like, I can't do it yet. I'm gonna get there. I tried it with God earlier, here, and I don't love it. I don't think I'm great at it yet, but I'm gonna get there. You know, like things take time. And in fact, yeah, actually, that's a good point on about time. Like, this took about a month. I just come back from Japan, so I've been away for like 3 months, and I kind of started like maybe the first second of this just before I left. So the rest of this has just been me gunning it straight after, and I really wanted to finish this before my birthday. Yay! So you know, I was like, right, I've got to lead the charge and get this 12 seconds done. So this has been like kind of under a month, you know, not including the roughs, because the roughs I wanted to spend a bit of time on. I think they took about I want to say like 20 days. But I took my time with this, you know. I've not been like, it's not been my main focus. I've actually been super busy with work, so it's been kind of difficult to kind of spend loads and loads of time on this. So anyway, like, you know, I kind of like had this idea that, you know, when it cuts away, all these big like smears kind of cover the screen, so it kind of feels like you're getting that force. This okay, I need to explain myself. This sort of like bubbles and wow, completely missed that. But point is, the bubbles, the floor was originally supposed to be like a big white pool. You know, like I kind of envisioned like heaven being like not like what people perceive. It's not like a place in the clouds. It's like an eternal void, almost similar to like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but like a kind of like a shallow pool. I feel like I'm definitely copying off of Azura's Wrath, but that shit's fucking fire. So like, fuck off. So my point was, it was going to be like, oh, this is like the water coming up, but then I realized later on I kind of had the ground shatter, and I was like, well, okay, it's either shattering or it's water splashes. So, but I thought this looked so cool. I was like, I'm not ditching it. And I was like, well, not many people are going to watch the breakdown, so they're not going to know it. So, yay. Okay, so then, you know, it cuts to an eye shot, kind of close up, so that, you know, you can understand like what Doe's kind of doing, and it saves me from drawing like a massive amount of the head. I know that sounds like I'm being not uncomfortable again, but actually I feel like this works better. You know, you get that like close up, and then you get like a kind of, you know, you're more focused on the eyes, whereas like over here you're not. But yeah, he pulls in, and then, you know, you start to see the ground. So I kind of had this idea that the ground would like flash where it's gonna crack, and then you would have these like big smears like pile out of where it's supposed to be, and then you know, the ground starts shattering in. You know, you get a little bit of smoke. He pulls his leg out the way, and then you have this shot. Now, this shot was my fucking living nightmare for a whole month. I actually felt like that video of that chimpanzee against the fucking wall, because every single time I'd do a thing, I'd be like, right, that's the end of the shot, and then I'd be like, no, it has like another thing that I like envisioned, and I was like, it's no compromises. I have to do all the different layers that I need to do. So I was like, I need to get another layer going and animate more. So you have this pull-out shot. A lot of people are literally not going to notice, but this is actually a pan shot. Like, you can see if you follow this line, this is it pan shot? Like, I don't really know what the correct terminology is, but like this starts to turn. I don't know why that background effect is on there. Hold on. That's not right. Hold on. Where is that? Why are my roofs on? What the hell's going on? There we are. But yeah, like so this like this kind of element like turns, and then you get this like big effect. It covers the screen. The hands come in, and you kind of have a little bit of like air resistance. Like here and here. And then I kind of wanted to display some like downward force on Doe because my wife said it looked like he was jumping, and I was like, oh my god, I'm getting in my head about that. And then pulls out, and as you can see, the floor is actually moving to the right. I don't feel like I've done an amazing job with this, but you have to understand I was on this scene for like a whole fucking week, and I was like actually losing my mind. But anyway, so then the idea is God like extends his hands out and then pulls everything in. So he's like pulling the floor up while pulling away. So then you get like this really nice sort of like movement on the ground, and you get a flash of the explosion, and a couple of impact frames as you probably saw, and then you get like I kind of had this idea like it still flashes what's in between so that you can kind of still process what's going on while being very fast. This is totally ripped from Nakamura, this kind of like smear. I absolutely love when he fucking does this. I'll put that like one shot on screen from that one anime that I've never seen. But yeah, like I really love that kind of like big sort of smear to highlight like when something's going to move, and I feel like it gives your eye enough time to sort of like process what is about to happen. So the idea here is that God creates objects in his domain. So I know like Jujutsu Kaisen, but like no, like in his realm, the idea is that he kind of pulls elements together, and everything is made of. Now this is gonna sound weird as fuck, but it's made of his like skin. So basically, the ground, which is kind of like this, like how do I even explain this without sounding like a fucking nutcase? He is made out of like this meshy skin, and so is the floor underneath the water. So the idea is he can extend off some of his skin, like he can like his skin will pull off to like create objects. So like he is creation, like everything, almost like Attack on Titan with like the whole paths place, like how the sand like makes the Titans in real life. I kind of like the idea that creation, or like God in the sense, like all of his domain is creation. So like when he creates a pillar, that's actually like a part of him. So this attack is basically him like pushing his like body. His body is connected in the domain that Do is in. I'm doing a fucking poor job explaining this. I realize I'm like a nutcase. This would make sense if I actually sat down and like wrote this part, but I'm purely going off the cuff here. So anyway, he makes this big. Let's explain this in layman's terms. God makes giant pillar, and then he pulls his fist back, and then that pillar like shoots up, like real fast, sends Do right into the air. And I animated the ground here, and then the pillar, and then the hand. God, that was annoying. And then just before we get into the next proper cut, we have a side profile of Do. Just like to give you kind of like I feel like there's a rule where it's like you give someone like 3 shots to process something fast. You see it a lot in like action movies where like someone will get hit, but it'll be like from 3 different angles over and over. Kind of gives you enough time to sort of like realize what's going on. And obviously the third impact here will be on the second cut, which will begin next month. Which is by far way harder than this, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, the idea is this all pushes up, and then Do gets flung up, and then that's your second shot. And that's kind of it. I'd say that's kind of it. That's like literally a month's worth of work. And it was very fucking hard. And there's still flaws, like for example, like I've not actually animated his chain in this shot. just because I've not figured out the method yet. So like Doe has this eternal chain on him, that he has to cut each link, because like if he cuts one link, two appear. So like he has to continuously extend this chain. So in the next scene, if I go over to this and I turn on roughs, am I gonna get a good idea here? So this like blue kind of element, in this next scene, that's the chain, as you can see. So my idea is that Doe has been alive for so long and gotten used to mastering, these tools that he's been given, that he can like use this chain that was originally a crutch to keep him in hell, because the gods literally placed it on him to keep him there. He then uses this chain in fighting by like using like a chain's mechanics. You know, like if you whipped a chain, the end of it becomes faster and faster, until like it kind of gains like, I feel like I'm explaining this wrong, but like an escape velocity at the end, and then like cracks, like a whip. And the idea is that he will have this chain that he can fling himself around in to kind of match the speed of all these really impressive opponents. And obviously I've not animated the chain here, so the idea is that it would be like a chain, like that. But, alas, I haven't done that yet, because I'm going to be doing that in the next shot. And then when it comes to the end of the next shot, I will go back here and animate it on literally the two scenes that it belongs on. Which some would say that it's not done. I agree with you, but I've hit this month's deadline and I'm happy with it. But I'm also buried under, because I've just come back from traveling and I need to see people. So it's done for me. It's not being a quitter. It's me kind of realizing, okay, this is not my full-time job. I need to, separate from this where I can and just do my best. So, yeah. If you enjoy the breakdown, let me know. I can break down more, I guess, as I go along, if people like this. But if not, it's totally cool. I'll just show up. Yeah. Thanks for all the love on the Blue Lock video. Holy fucking shit. I did not expect that many likes and views. That's pretty crazy. It also made me eligible for monetization, which is kind of cool. I hate e-beggars so bad, because I just do this out of the passion of my heart. But I do have a Ko-Fi in the description, and when I tell you I love coffee, that is quite the understatement. So yeah, don't donate if you haven't got the funds. But if you fancy giving me a quid, you're a top geezer, You're an absolute geezer. Yeah. All right, thank you. I will update when I get that other cut done in like 8 trillion years.